The movie, So Young, Too Never Gone, opens by introducing Suzy, a young girl from a modest family. Despite facing severe financial difficulties and her father's declining health, Suzy's parents are determined to provide her with the best education they can. They invest all their savings to enroll her in a prestigious school, hoping that this will open doors to a brighter future for their daughter. Suzy's journey begins at her new school, where she meets Shen, a wealthy but somewhat arrogant boy. Their first interaction is far from pleasant. As Suzy is walking to class, Shen speeds past her on his motorcycle, accidentally drenching her with water. This awkward encounter sets the stage for their complicated and evolving relationship. At the school, Suzy quickly befriends Mu, a kind-hearted girl who notices that Suzy is a newcomer. Mu offers her friendship and guidance, helping Suzy feel a bit more comfortable in the unfamiliar environment. Despite her friendly interactions, Suzy struggles academically, particularly with math. During a class test, Shen snatches her notebook, teasing her about her poor performance. Annoyed and embarrassed, Suzy storms off, leaving him with her notebook. In the next class, San tries to return an unfamiliar notebook to Suzy, but she pointedly ignores him and, in a moment of defiance, places a chair on his feet. Uncertain of how to handle the situation, San simply leaves the notebook on her desk and walks away. Later, San's friend approaches Suzy and sarcastically remarks, "You really hurt San today. His foot's injured, and I had to take him to the doctor. Who's going to pay for it?" Feeling guilty, Suzy withdraws money from her ATM to cover the medical expenses. However, San and his friends end up using the money to throw a party for the entire class. Mao, noticing the situation, confronts San and says, "Do you even realize that the money you're partying with was Suzy's entire monthly budget?" This revelation leaves Xian stunned and regretful. Determined to make amends, San quietly transfers the money back to Suzy's account before the next class begins. When Suzy notices the return, she immediately withdraws the cash again and gives it back to San, refusing to accept his gesture. Later, we see Suzy on the rooftop, visibly tense and lost in thought. The weight of her financial struggles and her responsibility to excel in her studies weighs heavily on her. As she ponders how to manage her expenses for the coming month, San arrives to meet her. Breaking the silence, he offers, "I want to help you with your math." Suzy refuses, unwilling to accept his assistance. San, however, persists and appeals to her reasoning. "If you keep struggling in math, who's going to suffer the most?" he asks. This strikes a chord in Suzy as she remembers the sacrifices her parents have made for her education. Realizing how disappointed they would be if she failed, she reluctantly agrees to let San tutor her. This act of kindness, combined with Shen's willingness to tutor her in math, helps Suzy make impressive progress. Her math score improves to 85, a significant boost that fills her with a new sense of pride and accomplishment. Despite their growing closeness, Suzy's family problems force her to temporarily leave the school. When she returns, she begins to distance herself from Shen. Confused and hurt by this change in behavior, Shen pleads with Suzy to explain what has happened. He promises not to bother her if she simply shares the truth. Suzy tearfully confesses that her father has passed away, a devastating loss that has left her emotionally shattered. Shen, though heartbroken, respects her need for space, allowing her the time she needs to heal. 2 years pass, and Suzy and Shen have little interaction during this time. As the end of their school days approaches, a farewell party is organized for the students. During the event, Shen's friend tells Suzy how much Shen has changed since she distanced herself. This revelation deeply touches Suzy. Meanwhile, Mu confesses her feelings to a boy she likes, and the two share a joyous dance, inspiring others to join in. But at that moment, we saw Sen trying to break his promise, gathering the courage to speak to Suzy. Meanwhile, Sen, feeling inspired, also convinced Suzy to join him in dancing, and soon they were all dancing together. Suddenly, the power went out. In the darkness, James kissed Mao, and at the same time, Sen hugged Suzy tightly. Just as the lights came back on, Suzy pulled away and started to walk away, with Sen following her. Sen then said, "I love you so much. Please, be my partner." In China, they don't necessarily marry. They often live together without formal marriage. He continued, "We can live together and study together, But Suzy didn't say anything. She remained silent and unexpectedly kissed him. Sen, seeing it as a positive sign, believed it was a sign of hope. But as they parted ways, we saw Suzy crying. She had made the decision that from that day on, she would never meet Sen again. That was her final gesture. As time passed, school life ended, and everyone prepared to join different colleges. Suzy joined a college where she met a senior named Joan. Joan was older than Suzy, and she admired him as a kind person. Joan took great care of Suzy, and they even worked part-time together. Over time, they developed a close relationship. However, people began telling Suzy that Joan had feelings for her, while Suzy considered him just a friend. Before Suzy could say anything, someone called her name, and when she turned, she saw Joan had come to meet her. Just as Suzy was about to leave upon seeing Sen, Sen grabbed her hand. Joan stepped forward and introduced himself to Sen, declaring, "I'm Suzy's boyfriend." Sen confidently responded, "I'm also Suzy's boyfriend." Later, Suzy took the two of them to a temple, where there was a book where people could write their wishes. The three of them wrote their desires in the book. At this point, Sen tried to see what Suzy had written, but she refused to show him. However, Sen's sister arrived, and with a bit of strategy, took Joan away, giving Sen and Suzy time to talk. When they were alone, Sen asked Suzy, "What did you find lacking in me? Or what did I do wrong that makes you keep pushing me away, wanting to be distant from me?" Suzy remained silent. At that moment, Sen forcefully kissed her, and Joan saw it. That night, the three of them went to a restaurant together. Suzy appeared very anxious and drank too much, eventually passing out. Strangely, while unconscious, Suzy kept murmuring Sen's name, which made Sen happy, and he started drinking as well. The next day, when Suzy spoke with Joan, he said, "I won't speak to you anymore." Joan was hurt by the events of the previous night and said, "Believe it or not, you still love Sen more than you admit." At this point in the story, I found myself wondering, what does Suzy really want? In the next scene, after hearing Joan's words, Suzy went to the hotel. There, she confronted Sen, asking, "Why haven't you left my life? Why do you keep bothering me?" Sen replied, "2 years ago, you left me, and even now, don't you ever wish to see me again?" Suzy responded, "You were the one who made the effort. You forced me into tutoring, helped me, and even made me your girlfriend. You've been following me around all this time. I never asked you to do any of that." Sen was shocked, confused about what Suzy was trying to say. Then Sen asked her one last question. "Why didn't you say no that day at the party? Why did you kiss me? From that day on, I'd been waiting for you like a fool." Suzy then replied, "Maybe you were right all along. Perhaps it was a mistake for me to wait or think about you." And so, the two of them parted ways once again. As time passed, not 2 or 3 years, but 3 years went by, and everyone had completed their graduation. During this time, Suzy had lost contact with both Sen and Joan. There was no communication, and everyone had gone their separate ways. At this moment, we see Mu, who had become a medical student. We see that James, whom Mu had proposed to during their school years, is now sick in the hospital. Mu, though they haven't communicated for some time, feels deeply affected and helps nurse James back to health. Afterward, Suzy visits her mother at home, where she unexpectedly runs into her uncle. It is revealed that Suzy's aunt passed away, and her uncle has no children, so he stayed with Suzy's family. They have regular conversations, and Suzy enjoys spending time with him. While walking with her mother outside, Suzy sees Sen again. Sen insists on coming into her home, and we see Suzy's mother making paper dolls. Sen reveals that his mother has bought an electric factory in the neighborhood, and that he'll be around more often. Sen tries to help Suzy with her work, offering to assist her with the paper dolls, but Suzy is resistant, saying that his help might spoil the work, and that the dolls are cheap. Sen, undeterred, offers to pay her double the price of the dolls, hoping she'll spend time with him. Suzy, still upset, walks away. That night, Sen stays up trying to make the paper dolls, and the next morning, Suzy is deeply moved by the sight of his injured hands, cut by the bamboo sticks used to make the dolls. Suzy realizes that Sen, who had never had to work hard in his life, stayed up all night making the dolls for her. This emotional realization makes her thank him, and Sen suggests that they be together after graduation, regardless of where she works. He promises to support her. Suzy agrees, and they begin a genuine relationship. After graduation, Suzy applies for jobs that would require her to be in Beijing, but she doesn't get hired there. She shares her job search troubles with Shen, who calls her to express his sadness when she tells him she couldn't find a job in Beijing but has secured one elsewhere. Suzy then understands that Shen is hurt by her decision. In response, she buys a train ticket to meet him. On the way, Shen calls her, apologizing and saying he is angry, but now he wants to meet her. They both end up deciding to meet halfway at a station in Shanghai. There, they reconnect, smile, and spend the night together in a hotel. They agree to move in together as partners, starting a new chapter of their lives. Meanwhile, Jamez and Mu are seen together. Jamez informs Mu that he is getting married to another girl, as arranged by his family, and he cannot leave. Mu, although heartbroken, hides her feelings and congratulates him. Later, Mu reveals to Suzy that she will be leaving the country to study abroad and says her goodbyes tearfully. The final scene hints at another invitation, this time for a party hosted by Suzy's sister, leaving us anticipating the next chapter in her life. At a party, Suzy learns that Joanne is currently Shen's sister's boyfriend, and they are planning to marry. Shen, feeling concerned, questions his sister about whether Joanne is truly right for her, or if he's just after her money. In turn, Shen's sister asks the same question about Suzy, implying that he suspects Suzy might be in it for the money too. Meanwhile, when Suzy is speaking with Joanne, he confesses his desire to become wealthy, which is why he is marrying Shen's sister. It becomes clear that Joanne is using her to achieve his financial goals. Shen is not happy with this situation. After the party, on their way home, Suzy suddenly asks Shen if he would marry her, pledging that no matter the difficulties, she would never let go of his hand. Later, Suzy's uncle visits and informs her that her mother has cancer, requiring a large sum of money for treatment. He insists that Suzy should not ask Shen for help, as Shen has already done a lot for the family, even quitting his job at the factory. Suzy must find a way to manage the money herself. When Shen learns about Suzy's struggle, he offers her financial assistance, saying he has managed to arrange the money. However, Suzy reveals that she has already borrowed the money from Joanne. This causes tension, as Shen feels hurt and betrayed, questioning why Suzy would turn to Joanne instead of him. Despite their relationship, he expresses his frustration, saying that he has always been there for her. Suzy defends her decision, explaining that Shen has already given so much for her family, and that Joanne, being from a similar financial background, understands the struggles better. Despite Shen's anger, Suzy insists that she is grateful for all his help, but doesn't want to burden him further. In a fit of rage, Shen takes the money Joanne lent and returns it to him. Joanne then confronts Shen, reminding him that while Suzy didn't tell him about borrowing from him, she did come to him in her time of need. This only angers Shen further, and he heads to a bar with his friends to drink away his frustration. Suzy later tries to speak with Shen and get him to come back with her, but Shen refuses, sending her away. His friends criticize him for being unreasonable, prompting Shen to return home. Back at home, Suzy shows Shen an agreement, written by her, stating that she owes him money, but she will repay it soon. This gesture pushes Shen to his limits. He can no longer stay calm and begins to express his frustrations. He accuses Suzy of never truly understanding him, of always isolating herself and never letting him be part of her life. In tears, Shen confronts Suzy about how he feels neglected. Suzy tries to comfort him, but Shen's pain is too much to contain. He reveals that since 2007, they've been together, but Suzy has never truly seen him as an equal. He believes they were never meant for each other and that they should break up. With these words, Shen ends their relationship. 2 years pass, and in 2016, we see Suzy visiting a temple where she had written a wish years ago. On her way back, she remembers the wish and, searching through her old books, tries to recall what she had written, reflecting on the journey that brought her to this point. As Suzy reflects on the past, he checks his old writings and realizes that he had only written about Suzy, confirming how deeply he loved him at the time. Suzy understands that he has missed a great opportunity in life. Meanwhile, Shan, feeling the pain of the past, has moved from China to America. The idea is that when you face hardship in a place, it's best to leave it, as the surroundings will constantly remind you of the old memories. This is why Shan has moved from China to New York, seeking a fresh start. However, Suzy manages to find Shan's address and travels to New York. From a distance, Suzy sees Shan, but hesitates to approach him, wondering if Shan has married someone else. He questions whether meeting him would be the right thing to do, and whether they could ever reunite. The movie ends on this unresolved note, leaving the relationship between the two characters uncertain. The story then shifts to a deeper reflection on love. The narrator shares that, in real life, when someone loves you, we often take it for granted. But true love is rare, and when you find it, you should appreciate it fully. If you keep pushing and demanding more, you might lose that love forever. The movie encourages valuing true love, as it might not always be expressed in grand gestures, but in consistent, steadfast affection over time. The film leaves us with a profound message about valuing love and relationships, and the importance of patience and understanding in the pursuit of true happiness.